more than a dozen guns found at the home of Trump rally shooter.
As the threats to democracy intensify, NATO has turned its attention toward the impacts of internal threats to democracy in Europe and what can be done to foster greater democratic resilience.
Today in Warren, Michigan, a suburban Detroit police officer who punched a young black man in the face and slammed his head to the ground pleaded guilty to a federal civil rights violation. Matthew Rodriguez acknowledged using unreasonable force against the 19-year-old man while processing him at the Warren jail last June. He also admitted to false statements he made about the incident.
More news on the 4th. 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 A renewed bout of volatility hit financial markets as recent talk about a U.S. economic recession, mostly seen as premature, spurred warnings.
Democracy is in peril in America. Many Americans have taken democracy as an afterthought.
Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas failed to publicly disclose additional travel on GOP megadonor Harlan Crow's private jet.
W.H.M.R.C called the police for help. Later, she was shot in the face by the responding deputy. President Joe Biden drops out of the 2024 presidential race and endorses Harris for the nominee.
More news on the 4th. 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 More news on the 4th.
Former President Trump faces 37 felony counts with a combined maximum sentence totaling 400 years. This is just the beginning of Mr. Trump's problems. Trump faces a plethora of investigations around the country. He was also indicted on 34 felony counts in Manhattan. He is currently being investigated by Special Counsel Jack Smith while the Georgia prosecutors are wrapping up their investigations.
Various U.S. government agencies were hit by global cyber attacks. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency is currently investigating the source of the attempted breach and its possible impact according to the agency's executives.
Reporting from Berlin, an American tourist was killed and another was injured when they were attacked by an American man they met near the Neuschwanstein Castle in southern Germany, according to the German authorities.
Climate change is causing people to move, according to current studies. However, the study opposes the theory that mass migration to less perilous regions of the U.S. such as the upper Midwest or New England is a result of climate change. Instead, most people are moving to locations that are nearby with low flood risk.
2 women died and 5 other people were wounded when gunfire erupted Sunday evening at a crowded public park in Rochester, New York.
More than 50 million people across the U.S. are under heat alerts amid a brutal heat wave that has shattered records and caused multiple deaths across the West.
In Panama, the trial of 27 people charged in connection with the worldwide Panama Papers money laundering started today in criminal court. Those on trial include the owners of the law firm Mossack Fonseca, which is at the heart of the 2016 massive document leak. The Panama Papers include a collection of 11 million secret financial documents that illustrate how some of the world's richest people hide their money. The repercussions of the leaks have been far-ranging, prompting the resignation of the Prime Minister of Iceland and bringing scrutiny to the leaders of Argentina and Ukraine, Chinese politicians, and Russian President Vladimir Putin, among others.